Welcome to Reddit Affairs, the place where secrets are revealed and hearts are broken. Sit back, relax, and let this story take you on an emotional ride. And remember, if you love deep, dramatic stories, don't forget to subscribe and support the channel. I never thought I'd be one of those people posting on Reddit about infidelity. For 15 years, I believe I had the perfect life, or at least a decent one. A loving wife, 2 amazing kids, a small house in the suburbs, a steady job. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, and I honestly thought that was enough. My wife, Emma, and I met in college. She was this bright, funny, confident girl who always knew what she wanted. I was quieter, more grounded, maybe even a bit boring, but she said I made her feel safe. And that was all I ever wanted, to be her safe place. We got married after graduation, had our first child a few years later, and from there, life just moved forward. Work, bills, birthdays, parent-teacher meetings. The usual routine. It wasn't exciting, but it was ours. Looking back now, I realize I missed the signs. About a year ago, Emma started working later. She said there was a new manager who was pushing everyone harder. She'd come home exhausted, go straight to shower, sometimes skip dinner. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd just say, "Same as always." At first, I didn't question it. I trusted her completely. But slowly, the small things started to pile up. She began keeping her phone face down on the table. Her laughter became rare. And when we were together, truly together, she felt distant, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I tried to talk to her about it. She brushed it off, said she was just stressed, tired, maybe a bit burnt out, and I wanted to believe her, so I did. Then, one morning, I woke up with a strange sense of unease. I can't even explain it. Like something inside me already knew something was wrong, even before the truth came out. A few days later, I started feeling unwell. I won't go into details, but it was enough to make me visit a doctor. He asked me a few personal questions, did some tests, and told me to wait for the results. I wasn't worried. I hadn't done anything wrong, and I trusted my wife completely. A week later, I got the call. I still remember the sound of the doctor's voice, calm, but serious. He told me I needed to come in to discuss the results in person. My stomach dropped. When I sat in his office, he explained that I had contracted a serious infection, one that could only be transmitted in a certain way. I felt my entire body go numb. I tried to argue. I told him it wasn't possible, that I'd been faithful to my wife our entire marriage. He didn't say much, just looked at me with quiet sympathy and said, "Then you should talk to her." I drove home in silence. Every second of that drive felt like a slow-motion replay of our marriage. Every laugh, every fight, every late night she came home from work. When I walked through the door, Emma was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, watching her. Finally, I said, "Emma, is there anything you need to tell me?" She looked up confused. "What do you mean?" I told her what the doctor said. The diagnosis. The impossibility of it, unless she had been with someone else. For a moment, she froze. Then her face went pale. Her first instinct was to deny everything. She said the test must be wrong, that maybe I got it some other way. When I didn't react, when I just stood there silently, she broke. Tears. Apologies. Words that meant nothing. She said it only happened once. That she was lonely. That it didn't mean anything. That she didn't know the man was sick. I remember just sitting down at the kitchen table, staring at my hands. My wedding ring caught the light, the same ring I'd worn for 15 years, and suddenly felt heavy, almost toxic. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "You need to leave." She begged me not to overreact, so we could work through it, that it was just a mistake. But there are mistakes, and then there are betrayals so deep they rot your soul. That night, I slept on the couch. I could hear her crying upstairs, whispering to herself, maybe to God, maybe to no one. And as I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept looping in my mind. How could someone who once loved me do this? The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Emma was in the kitchen, wearing one of my old hoodies, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked like a stranger, someone wearing my wife's face but missing the soul behind it. She tried to talk. "Please," she said softly, "can we just sit down and talk like adults?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that adults don't destroy 15 years of marriage over a fling. But the truth is, I was too tired to fight. We sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where I first confronted her. She kept wringing her hands, staring at her coffee cup. "I don't even know how it happened," she started. I almost laughed, that bitter, humorless kind of laugh that escapes when you got nothing left inside. "Then maybe you can try explaining it to me," I said. She told me about a coworker, a new guy who joined her team last year. She said he was charming and funny, and that he made her feel seen. I couldn't even process the words. Seen? I'd been by her side for 15 years, through job losses, family deaths, postpartum depression. But some random guy at work makes her feel seen? She said it happened one night after a work event. Too much wine, too much laughter. He offered to walk her to her car, and one thing led to another. She swore it was just that one time, that she regretted it instantly, that she hated herself for it. But the thing is, when someone lies to you once, truly lies, every word afterward feels like poison. I asked her how long she planned to keep it from me. She said she didn't know. She thought it would go away. I looked at her then, and I realized something terrifying. She wasn't the woman I married. That woman would have told me the truth, no matter how painful. The woman sitting across from me was a coward. I asked her if she loved him. She said no. I asked if she ever thought about me, about us, when she was with him. She started crying again, saying she was drunk, confused, broken. I didn't want her excuses. I wanted the truth. Finally, I asked, "Why him?" She looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "Because he made me feel alive." That was the moment something inside me snapped. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked out. She followed me to the door, begging me not to leave, saying we could fix it. But you can't fix something that's already shattered. For a few days, I stayed at a friend's house. I didn't tell the kids the truth, just that Mom and Dad needed some space. My son, the older one, asked if we were getting divorced. I told him I didn't know. I could barely look him in the eye. Emma kept texting, calling, leaving voicemails. I didn't answer any of them. But late one night, I opened one of her messages. It said, "I know I can't undo what I did, but please remember who I was before this. Remember our life, our family. Don't let one horrible mistake erase everything." And that's what hurt the most, because I did remember. I remembered our first apartment, tiny and cold, but filled with laughter. I remembered how she cried the day our daughter was born, saying it was the happiest day of her life. I remembered Sunday mornings when we'd make pancakes together, and she'd steal my coffee just to annoy me. I remembered everything, and it made it worse. A few days later, I finally went home, not because I forgave her, but because I needed to see my kids. Emma was there, quiet, cautious, like she was afraid to breathe too loudly. She said she made an appointment for both of us to get checked, that she wanted to do the right thing. The results confirmed what I already knew. I had to start treatment. She did too. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was serious. And every time I took my medication, I felt the sting of what she'd done, not just physically, but emotionally. For weeks, our house felt like a war zone. The silence was heavier than shouting. We avoided each other, except for the kids. Every conversation was polite, mechanical. Two strangers pretending to still be a family. One evening, after the kids went to bed, she came into the living room. "I want to tell them," she said quietly. "Tell them what?" I asked. "The truth," she said. "They deserve to know why things are different." I looked at her for a long time. She meant well, I think. But how do you explain to two children that their mother broke something sacred? That their father can't even look at her the same way anymore? "No," I said finally. "They don't need to carry this. They just need to feel safe." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Do you hate me?" I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But the truth? I didn't hate her. I hated what she'd done. I hated what she'd turned us into. That night, she slept in the guest room. I lay awake in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many couples had been through this exact nightmare. Love rotting quietly from the inside until one day it collapses completely. And somewhere in that darkness, I realized something else. I wasn't just mourning the marriage. I was mourning the man I used to be, the one who believed that love, if strong enough, could survive anything. It's been 8 months since the night I found out. 8 months since my entire world cracked open. People say time heals everything, but that's a lie. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you how to live with the pain. After that night, things between Emma and me never went back to normal. We tried therapy. We sat in uncomfortable rooms, across from kind strangers with notepads, who told us to communicate, to forgive, to rebuild trust. I wanted to believe it could work. I wanted to believe we could somehow glue the pieces back together. But every time she touched my hand, I'd remember where that hand had been. Every time she said, "I love you," I'd hear the echo of her lies. You can't rebuild something on top of rot. The therapist said I had to decide whether I want to stay and rebuild or leave and start over. But how do you decide to walk away from 15 years, from the mother of your children, from the person you once believed was your forever? The kids started noticing the tension. Our son became quiet, withdrawn. Our daughter kept asking why Mom was sad all the time. I told them Mom and Dad were just working through some things. It felt like the most cowardly sentence I'd ever spoken. Then came the breaking point. One evening, Emma made dinner. Her famous lasagna, my favorite. She was trying, I'll give her that. She poured wine, lit candles, smiled like the old days. For a few minutes, I almost forgot. We talked. We laughed a little. And for the first time in months, the house didn't feel haunted. But after dinner, she said, "I know I've hurt you, but I need to know if you'll ever be able to love me again." The silence that followed was unbearable. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes, because it would make her stop crying, make the pain a little quieter. But I couldn't. "No," I said finally. "I don't think I can." She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. She didn't argue this time. She just whispered, "I understand." The next morning, she packed a small suitcase and left to stay with her sister. The kids thought she was going on a work trip. I stood at the window, watching her drive away, and I felt nothing. Not relief, not anger, just emptiness. In the weeks that followed, I learned how to live alone again. The quiet of the house was deafening at first. Every sound, the creak of the floor, the hum of the refrigerator, reminded me of her absence. But slowly, that silence became something else. Peaceful. The kids adjusted better than I expected. I told them the truth eventually, not everything, but enough. I said that Mom and Dad loved them deeply, but we couldn't live together anymore. My son cried. My daughter just hugged me and said, "It's okay, Daddy. I still love you." That nearly broke me. Emma and I share custody now. When she comes to pick up the kids, we're civil. Polite smiles, short conversations. I can see the regret in her eyes. She carries it like a shadow. But the strange thing is, I don't hate her anymore. Hate takes too much energy. And somewhere along the way, I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life defined by her betrayal. I've started seeing a therapist on my own. I've reconnected with old friends. I've gone back to the gym, started cooking again, even joined a hiking group on weekends. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm living for myself. Not for a marriage, not for appearances, but for me. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about her. Not with anger, just with sadness. I think about the girl I met in college, the one who laughed too loudly and loved too deeply, the one who promised me forever. I think about the woman she became, and how somewhere along the way, she lost herself and took me down with her. But I also think about how I survived it, because the truth is, betrayal doesn't kill you. It just changes you. It strips away everything you thought you knew about love, about trust, about yourself, until all that's left is a raw, ugly truth of who you are underneath. And I'm still here, still standing, still healing. A few weeks ago, I found an old photo of us from our wedding day. She's laughing, her head thrown back, sunlight in her hair. I almost deleted it. But then I realized that photo isn't a lie. It was real once. The love, the happiness, the promises, they all existed. They just didn't last. And that's okay. I'm learning that not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things just need to be left behind. So here I am, 41 years old, divorced, scarred, but still moving forward. I don't know what's next. Maybe someday I'll love again. Maybe I won't. But for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace with not knowing. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't losing the other person. It's finding yourself again after they're gone.